Your team is losing. Badly. There are 11 minutes left on the clock, and the players in the losing shirts look like they already know how this ends. But you don't stop watching. You lean forward. Something in you wants them to win more than it did when the score was even. Why? You'd think logic would take over. The bigger team has better players, better funding, better odds. A rational brain should stop caring the moment the outcome becomes obvious. But your brain isn't built for cold math. It's built for something older. Psychologists call this the underdog effect, and it shows up almost everywhere humans compete. In 2007, researchers Joseph Vandello and Nadav Goldschmied ran a series of studies asking people to watch made-up competitions between two unnamed teams. The only difference between the groups was a single sentence telling participants which team had less money, less experience, or fewer resources. That was it. No names, no history, no real stakes. And still, most people picked the underdog to root for. Something about simply being told, "this one has less," was enough to shift loyalty. That's strange, isn't it? You didn't grow up with that team. You have no memory of their struggles. And yet, the moment you hear they're outmatched, part of you switches sides. To understand why, you have to go back further than football. Further than sport of any kind. For most of human history, you didn't live in stadiums. You lived in small groups, maybe 20 to 50 people, all depending on each other to survive. Food was shared, danger was shared, and so was status. If one person in the group hoarded too much power, too much food, too much control, it wasn't just unfair. It was dangerous. A group that let one member dominate the rest was a group vulnerable to collapse. So your ancestors developed something evolutionary biologists now call an anti-dominance instinct. Not a desire for total equality, exactly, but a deep discomfort with anyone getting too far ahead of everyone else. Primatologist Frans de Waal spent decades studying this instinct in capuchin monkeys, and one experiment in particular became famous. Two monkeys side by side were both trained to hand over a small rock in exchange for food. When both received the same reward, cucumber slices, everything was calm. But the moment one monkey started receiving grapes, a far better treat, while the other kept getting cucumber, the short-changed monkey didn't just complain, it threw the cucumber back. It refused to participate at all. Unequal outcomes, even ones that technically still gave it food, felt intolerable. You share that wiring. Somewhere behind your ribs is a very old alarm system that goes off whenever one side is clearly winning too easily. That alarm isn't just about fairness between two teams on a screen, it's about you and where you might have stood in a group like that. Here's the twist most people never think about. Rooting for the underdog isn't really about the underdog at all. It's about imagining yourself in their position. Evolutionary psychologists suggest this reaction is a kind of mental rehearsal. If you were the one with less, would anyone stand by you? Watching an outmatched team fight anyway lets you test that question in a low-stakes setting from the safety of your couch. There's a second layer to this too, one tied closer to your own nervous system. Economist Colin Camerer's research on fairness and reciprocity found that humans have an almost automatic negative reaction to seeing someone dominate a situation through sheer advantage rather than effort. It isn't the winning that bothers you. It's winning that looks inevitable. A game with no tension doesn't feel like a story. It feels like a foregone conclusion, and your brain, wired for millions of years to track threats and shifting power, has almost no interest in a foregone conclusion. That's why a huge score gap can feel boring, even if your favorite team is the one ahead. And it's why a smaller team clawing back a single goal, even in a match they'll still lose, can feel more thrilling than a blowout win. Think about the biggest games you actually remember, not the ones with the highest score. The ones where someone shouldn't have had a chance and still gave everything anyway. Your memory doesn't file away dominance, it files away struggle. This is also why underdog stories spread so easily beyond sport. A small company competing with a giant. A new kid standing up to someone twice their size. A single voice speaking against a room that disagrees. None of these are about football, and yet your reaction to them runs on the exact same ancient circuitry. You are, in a very real sense, still watching for the same thing your ancestors watched for around a fire 20,000 years ago? Is the group about to tip too far in one direction, and is anyone brave enough to push back? There's a reason coaches and commentators instinctively lean into this. Announcers rarely say, "The favorite is up by 3. They say the underdog is refusing to go down without a fight. Language itself gets pulled toward the story your brain already wants to hear. And once you notice that pull, you start noticing it everywhere. In elections, where the challenger polling behind gets called scrappy and determined. In workplaces, where the newer, smaller team pitching against an established rival gets quiet cheers from people who have never met them. In your own life, in moments when you felt outmatched by something bigger than you, and some part of you hoped the world worked the same way it does at the final whistle. That effort counts. That size isn't destiny. That the gap can close. None of this means the underdog usually wins. Most of the time, they don't. The bigger team, the better funded team, the more experienced team wins far more often than not. But your loyalty was never really about the final score. It was about what the struggle revealed. Who kept trying when trying seemed pointless? Who refused to accept the outcome everyone else had already decided? So the next time you catch yourself leaning forward for a team that's losing badly, with no logical reason to still believe, remember what's actually happening. You're not just watching a game. You're running code written long before stadiums existed, long before scoreboards, long before football itself. Code that once helped a small group of humans survive by making sure no one got left behind. Your team is losing, badly, and somehow that's exactly why you can't stop watching.